Hello, I'm Colleen Gallagher, CEO at Onward and Upward, and you're listening to the Association Insights podcast, where each week we interview association leaders from across the country to hear how they're trying new things, taking big risks, and delivering value for their members. We'll explore the realities of what it means to work in and with associations and bring you the insights and inspiration you need to advance your career and make big changes at your association. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Association Insights podcast. I'm your host, Colleen Gallagher, and I'm really looking forward to today's conversation as we continue our October series on membership value reimagined. I'm talking with Julie Davis, Director of Marketing and Membership, and Ben Rome, Director of Communications and Brand at the American Bus Association. Ben, you may remember as a repeat guest you've heard before, and he brings close to 30 years immersed in storytelling and strategic communication, culminating in his rich professional journey spanning diverse roles since 2009. His experience encompasses a multifaceted skill set from writing and editing to podcasting, game design, content marketing, and beyond. Julie brings over 15 years of experience in B2B marketing and communications. She's a truly strategic leader and a great content creator dedicated to helping organizations grow and connect with their audiences. In her current role at ABA, she leads national initiatives to strengthen member engagement, improve retention, and grow the diverse membership base. I know they're going to have lots of great insights today, and I'm so excited to welcome them to the show. Julie and Ben, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Great. Well, let's start with a quick introduction of ABA. For listeners who are not as familiar, what makes this industry and the community you represent so unique?
We represent a diverse but very powerful segment within the tourism and travel sector. Roughly half of our membership are organizations dedicated to the motor coach, whether it's charter, private, manufacturer, technician, operator, driver, support services. And then the other half, roughly, is the tourism and travel that is more dedicated to group tour and travel, not solo or private. But this is where, cruise ships do their excursions, or you go and you sign on to do a day trip through one country, or to explore attractions or even like DC's monuments at night. That's a group tour. So anywhere there's a group of people, not necessarily related in any way, but they're a group of people going to do a shared experience somewhere, that's a group travel and tour. And that's a large part of anyone on the travel side. So we're talking DMOs, direct marketing organizations, with regards to cities, city visitor bureaus, hoteliers, restaurants, attractions of all types. So really, it's a disparate group of people with sometimes two very distinct avenues within their interests. But at the same time, the motor coach is the thing that kind of cements everybody together. So it's a very unique, I think it's a unique type of trade organization, managing two very different things, transportation and tourism, and yet seeing how they unify is really kind of the coolest thing that I've experienced in the last 19 months that I've been with the organization. So,
yeah, that's really incredible, and I love how you bring that together and find the common theme, but really strive to serve those audiences well in the different respects too. So, Julie, you're new to ABA, but not new to associations. So, I'd love to know what drew you to this role, and then also what are your biggest takeaways so far as you've gotten to know the team, know the members, know the industry?
Well, yeah, no, it's true. I've been in associations or nonprofits for over 20 years. My first job out of college was actually in a trade association working on their 7,000 attendee trade show. So that's actually and I've been working, as I said, in or with them ever since. I had gone I'd worked with IDA, the Health Industry Distributors Association. I'd also worked with PIA, the Printing Industries of America, where I transitioned more into a member-specific kind of role. And then I was a stay-at-home mom for a number of years, but I did some outside projects for a variety of organizations. And then really I went, when it came to like real full bore coming back full time, I was working on the other side of associations in the technology sector. So I worked for Altai Systems, which is an AMS, Association Management Software company, building their marketing program. So I was their director, and then worked for A Church Consulting on a project basis, also building their marketing program. And then I was building my own marketing consultancy, Hat Trick Marketing. And as I was, just doing my own sourcing and things, a colleague had reached out to me and said, "Hey, I saw this listing for ABA, and I think it might be something up your alley." And yeah, I mean, I just felt like there was a lot of, as I kind of dug into it, I just thought, this looks like a really fun job, like a really fun place, like a really great opportunity. And so, long story short, I applied and I talked to the team members, and they liked my ideas, and they were all just really wonderful. I think what drew me to it is a couple things. I mean, the people. I think any job, they say the reason people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. And I think that's very true. And what I was really excited about meeting the team members at ABA was just from, at every point, like, these are really dedicated, hardworking, smart people who are, powered by the mission of supporting members and the industry. And I think that's really exciting. And having Fred Ferguson, who is our CEO, he's been there. He just celebrated his first year anniversary with ABA. And I think he's very forward thinking in like the best possible way. And I find that very exciting from, certainly from a membership position, and really trying to kind of help strengthen that member proposition. I think that it's, as I said, it's fun. It sounds like really kind of silly and base, but I think it's really exciting. It's just a fantastic opportunity.
That's amazing. And I think there's certainly been a lot of inflection points over the years for associations in terms of membership, but I do think now more than ever, having the leadership and the association really be forward thinking focused is going to make or break so many associations. So I love hearing that, and think that's a great way to be headed. So Ben, you said 19 months now since you've been there. What do you think's been the biggest shift in how you think about member engagement and storytelling since you've joined the association?
Make my job easier, to be honest with you. I've worked with like public policy and public health and that kind of space, and academic and scientist oriented. It's a little harder to draw them out, to get them to tell their story, to talk about why SNAP is important to policymakers, or why masking is important for preventing pandemic response. But for our people, I don't have to prompt that hard to get a story out of them. And even now, like, we're going through calls for stories for our 100-year celebration next year, and I've been inundated with them. And it's really cool because, you go and you meet our members, and it doesn't matter what industry within our segment that they all love to they don't talk about themselves. They talk about their company. They talk about their experiences. They talk about their groups, their teams. They talk about the passengers and the guests that they've serviced. And it is amazing to hear the passion, the enthusiasm, the happiness that they have for their jobs and the people that they help. And I guess the best way to explain it is, I think last time I shared on my 5th or 6th day of work was dropped right in the middle at the start of our annual event. So
I remember that.
I got on the job training like within the first week. But the experience, having gone to so many different types of expos and trade shows and conferences and things, this was the first one where within 2 hours of starting, I felt like I was at a giant family reunion. They come running across the aisle to each other, giving big hugs and seeing themselves, seeing each other for the first time in probably 3 months, because they all saw each other at another show. It's just like a big family. And I was sort of like embraced in that way. But then this past year in Philadelphia, this is my second event, they were all over me, it was like old hat, like, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on?" It was really cool. And, I have conversations like that now all the time, whether it's online or on calls. Even today, I got a phone call from from one of our tourism DMOs, and she was just going on about, the last time we saw each other and what had been going on in their world, and how her parents are doing, and the kids are, the grandkids, all this. It's just it's so different, and it does not take any effort at all for us to get them to talk about what they do. And so that makes it easy. What's hard now is finding the right ones to apply in the right way to amplify that. And that's where, I get to work with Julie to help manage what those messagings are for those different segments. And I think that's the biggest shift. They make my job so much more easy in that sense. And therefore it is absolute blast every single day to work with them all.
I love hearing that. And I do think that's something so unique to the association world, is this passion and joy in doing the work that you do. And it's really cool. So that's an awesome experience. Julie, I'd love to shift back to your conversation you mentioned about discovery mode and everything you're learning. And when we're thinking membership and engagement, what have you uncovered so far about what ABA members value most? And are you seeing some rooms to grow?
Absolutely. I think, to Ben's point, I've gone to a couple of events where I've seen some of what he's talked about from that family embrace, kind of very, very kind, very inclusive kind of vibe, if you will. And I think that is, but what's interesting, what I've discovered and people, they appreciate that, from ABA, and the biggest thing that I've discovered that members associate ABA with is Marketplace. And as Ben was describing, that is our flagship event. And which I think is amazing. And it's really, having, as I said, come from meetings early on, I can appreciate the tremendous work that our meetings department does to have grown it. I mean, there's over 100,000 appointments that are made at this show. And from the stats that I've seen, the fact that it's also not only that, but that it's actually book business too. So it's this real business being made. And this is really, in my experience, going to shows like this for many years, fairly unique, I think. So I understand that they value that very highly. And I think that that's amazing. And I think where the opportunity is to amplify the message more of the other non-marketplace things that ABA has and does. And in particular, our advocacy efforts. And really, as I've learned coming into this role, I don't know, Ben does a great job from the communication side and amplifying the message to the world and to our, other partners and things like that. But we haven't had somebody in membership, for the last, at least my understanding is maybe a year and a half or something, to do that specifically for the members, to really help them understand specifically what they have, what we're doing on their behalf, and understanding the value in that. And I think that's where there's a tremendous opportunity to do that in a number of different ways. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's always room for growth, and it's great when you can recognize those pockets of where that can be and what else you can do to bring more value. Because for associations, that's what it always comes back to: is, are we true to our mission, and are we delivering value for our members? Mm-hmm. So it's funny, when I was preparing for this podcast, I went to your website, and usually I'm going back quite a while in the news archives to find what they've been up to. And I think the last 2 to 3 months, you guys have had awards won, new anti-trafficking effort, outdoor access partnership. It was boom, 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 boom. So lots of new initiatives. I love it all. How are you ensuring that these efforts are going to come back to tangible member value?
Well, I think a number of ways. I think one of the things that I've been really excited to see, it kind of goes hand in hand with the idea of discovery, is learning about our councils and how that we've got a few in particular that are very active and very robust. One that because I've now become the staff liaison for, is Women in Buses. And using, I think, our councils in particular to amplify those efforts and those messages, and then also be able to use them to facilitate, I think, perhaps forums, webinars, other opportunities for education, even beyond the membership itself, is really something that we can do in order to try to just keep that momentum going and showing that, hey, being a part of this is being part of the solution. And, we're really trying to hone in our member value as well. What I learned prior to coming is that we've given a lot away for free. Like we have, all of our webinars are open to everything. What surprised me most was actually that our councils and committees you don't even have to be a member to be a part of it, which is, in my experience, very unique.
Interesting,
So,
yeah.
Maybe not the webinar part, but to have them all be that way, I thought was very, I think to me, I think that's where, let's be proud of what we're doing. And I think that's where the member value does come in. And so we are trying to kind of close the loop on some of that stuff to really say, well, look, no, we're not cheapening our efforts here. This is real value here that our members pay for. And, we want to make sure that they're getting the most out of it. We actually, through our foundation, we've released a number of reports, and we just recently had, the most recent one was one on group travel, the travel and tourism industry. And so we hosted our first member-only webinar so that they could take a deep dive into and ask the people that put on the researchers of the report to be able to ask them questions and get a little deeper understanding. And it's those kinds of things that I'm excited to give our members because they deserve it. I mean, that's, I think, high value stuff.
I love that. So I know we also talked in our prep call about the role tech plays in strengthening the member experience. I'd love to know how you're thinking about the tech stack at ABA, whether it's the data systems you have, automation you're hoping to do. What do you want to see change, and what do you want to bring to the membership?
It's been an interesting journey. Having the insight that I had on the other side of it from a technology, working on the other side of tech, I've seen so much and I've learned so much about what's out there and what can be done. And when things are implemented successfully, what the results can be, that, our system, a lot of our systems are, let's just say, perhaps under of a time that has passed and could be updated. And I think what I'm excited to do is to show our leadership the potential of what I know to be out there that ABA could be utilizing to amplify our message better, unify, even just for the member experience. I think really that should be our North Star. And I think Ben can also attest to our CEO. He's actually given us that ethos. He had us read a book called Fan First, which was all about the Savannah Bananas and how that is what they do. They are fan first is kind of.
I love them.
And it was a great read. And it was really, I think it really kind of hits home that idea of all right, if you're looking at it from that lens, what are we going to do? And let's face it, it's 2025. And in this day and age, everybody's using technology in some way. And the younger generations, Gen Z and Alpha, Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Yep. My kids are Gen Z, but they grew up with it their whole lives. And so they little things in researching it, it's really fascinating because little things, I'm Gen X and, and I might give a little bit more time for a website buffering, for example. Oh, it's buffering. I'll give it a second and stuff. That is not Gen Z or Gen Alpha. If it doesn't work right away, they move on. There's no patience for pages that don't load or, things that don't work right away. And so I think understanding that at this point in time from a member experience, I think is huge. And I think the more that we can lean into systems that make our members' lives easier, and we can connect information for them better and not make them hunt and peck for any kind of resources and things, the better. And that's really what my goal is in looking at our technology and really trying to improve, not just internally, but certainly, for our members as well.
Yeah, to follow up on that, I think it's really important for the marketing, the membership, and the communications teams of a group right now to really be kind of like the gatekeepers of the tech stack, because everything that the 80% of the association's focus is going to go through those doors. And, there was a time, I remember 10 years ago or even 15 years ago when I, was still relatively new in the association space, I'd get emails, sales calls and emails like, I want to say 100 times a day. I know that's not necessarily true, but it seemed like it constantly for like the next latest greatest thing. And after a while, you just realize they all do the same thing, but they're not doing it great. It's just a way to, these startups were just trying to get business. But more as we focus more and more and refine our focus on membership and the members that we serve, it's really important that we get that information to them in a timely, consistent, reliable manner that is vetted and true in a way that's not intrusive or dominant. And it's really on us to keep that in mind. And so it becomes more of a discussion and caregiving exercise for the internal teams. Julie and I have had many conversations about different tech stack and new adoption of ideas and platforms to help manage, because we're trying to keep what is going to work for our members. It's not necessarily what's good for the industry or this is what everyone's using out here, but is everything in that space needed or wanted and can help our membership side. So this is a constant discussion that we have between us, between our meetings team, and even with Fred and Callie, our advocacy side, working and making sure. So I really feel like if you're in the marketing, communications, and or membership space in an association, you are the gatekeeper, because those things they're gonna come through you. You're gonna need to manage those things and maintain them. And any complaints, they're gonna go right to you first.
Yep.
So it's really important to maintain that. And I think we've got a solid core now to adjust and to fine tune those things, which is why we're undergoing this kind of like internal technological renaissance to really kind of clear out systems that have been in play. They've been there. And we ask the question, why are we still using it? It's because we've always used it. And I get this way, you get placement about, I want my bookmarks this way. I want Windows to be working this way. I don't like the way 11 does this because it's the way I do it. But when you stop and you readjust and you realize, it's actually making my workflow better. Those are the questions you have to kind of step outside yourself in your comfort zone, and your teams need to be doing that too. Always reevaluate, always making sure that your focus and your lens is on what's best for your member segments.
Okay. I want to just highlight something you said there for our listeners so they don't miss it, but talking about not being intrusive in the outreach, that's a huge thing that we have to start thinking about. And I don't think that was necessarily something even 2 or 3 years ago that we might have been thinking as marketers and communicators and membership folks. So I think that's super important. And where I want to go next, you already kind of got into, both of you. One thing I've been asking everyone during this series is, what is next in membership and member value? And what is the future in the next 2, 3, 5 years? Do you all have a vision for that? Is there anything else you'd like to add on that front?
Well, I think that it's, I think part of it is, not to sound like a broken record talking about technology, but I do think it is embracing technology in a way that members want to see it. Case in point, like we don't currently have like a member app or anything, that's strictly for our members. That was one of the first things that I heard when I had my very first membership committee meeting, like within a month of joining. And since then, I'd heard other people, other members echo that kind of sentiment. And, part of, listening, and it's not just about listening to your members, but it's like understanding, all right, maybe this is something that we should be exploring, and member communities have been around for a long time. But I think the way member communities are deployed, I think the way member communities are utilized, I think that is something that is going to continue to shift. And I think the connections, the interconnectedness of those kinds of platforms, of those kinds of communities, with more member apps for a different kind of member-specific engagement, I think prompted by even more AI is here to stay. And I'm not going to go into the controversial nature of AI.
That's a whole nother podcast series.
A whole other podcast that you could do for sure. But I will say, I think to deny that it's here and that it's being used in a number of ways, I think is that idea of kind of like putting your head in the sand. I think you just have to, I think when it comes to that technology, or really any technology that's out there, I think the more that we can understand how to use it in a way that benefits our members, the better off, their member value is going to be, their experience is going to be, their engagement is going to be. And so that to me is what I see on the horizon, or more of those kinds of perhaps AI driven, prompts, interactions, apps, that kind of stuff, in a way that draws the membership in ways maybe they didn't even realize they needed or wanted. And I think that is, I think understanding that for us as association professionals is huge, because in my experience, the association landscape, particularly if you've only been in associations for a long time, you get kind of tunnel visioned into the things that are out there and not necessarily seeing some of the other tools or ways of engagement that perhaps other kinds of, like, for lack of a better term, for-profit entities are using, that you could be using in the association. And I think being open to those other kinds of tools, I think, is huge. And I think that's something that the association industry will continue to evolve and need to embrace.
Yeah. I love that. That's really exciting, and a lot of good stuff ahead. So I think it's a really optimistic outlook, and I know it's going to be a lot for associations to take on, but I do think there's opportunity if we embrace it. So I love that. I'd love to hear from both of you on what's one piece of advice that you would offer to other associations that are navigating change or looking to reimagine their approach to membership or communication.
So I mentioned it a few minutes ago, but really listen. Learn how to really constructively listen. Listen for things that are outside your comfort zone. Listen for things that are outside your box, and focus on what the member wants. You'll be surprised that once you set aside your preconceptions and what you think is right, and if instead of looking for ways to justify that, if you set that aside and really just listen, be honest about it, and listen, you'll find insights and relevance that you may not have considered before, and it will actually amplify what you need done. That's in this space we're living in now. So much is coming at us in various directions that it just helps. It just kind of clutters our minds out. And if we don't stop to really listen what our people are saying, what they're talking about, what their concerns are, what their focus is, you're going to miss the mark, and you're not going to serve them the way that they deserve to be served as an organization.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with everything, Ben said. I would piggyback on that. In a way to listen to your members would be something that I think ABA does well, and it's utilizing their councils and committees. I think that is a fantastic place to have those conversations and to frame them around different topic areas or, roles, depending upon how your association is structured. I think, it's sometimes, I mean, I've seen other associations, they just send out, their annual survey, and that's the litmus test that they use to have their initiatives going forward. And that's fine, but that's not necessarily going to give you the kind of insights that having real relationships within these like subcommittees and groups of actual members will give you. And I think that, as I said, that's a fantastic way of not only fostering engagement, but of being able to listen and better understand, what the member wants, And on the flip side, listening too can also give you insights into what they're not saying. And then perhaps being able to then say, well, hey, I noticed, this. Have you guys thought about this? As another alternative, just to kind of keep things fresh and interesting and relevant to their needs.
Yeah. Wow. This has been so good. I mean, so many good nuggets here. I think our listeners will take so much away. I'm so appreciative of both of you sharing your time and sharing your smarts. Before we let you go, though, we like to end all of our podcasts with a little rapid fire section here. And Ben, I think these are new ones since you were our last on. So, so not the same go around here. But Julie, we'll start with you first. Have you gotten to get away to anywhere fun lately?
Most fun it would be visiting my daughter at school. It was really. I've got my oldest is in college in Richmond at VCU. And anytime we go to Richmond, it's just always a blast. I had no idea how much of a foodie town it was. And so we always like to explore like a fun restaurant and a new place and see how it compares and things.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. Ben, how about you?
I just got back from an exclusive tour inside Lego headquarters and the factory for a whole week. So that was pretty awesome.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh, I love it.
I'm glad you went before me because his is way more exciting than mine.
Too funny. All right, well, Ben, we'll let you go first on this one. What's a podcast you're listening to you'd recommend for our listeners?
I don't really listen to podcasts. My brain just doesn't say, it bounces around a lot. If I do, it's usually on something either historical or music related. So
yeah. Do you have a book in mind?
I read 5 to 10 books a month. I'm constantly reading. Sorry, I
can't even pick one.
I will put a plug out. Goldie Chan has marketing for introverts, which is perfect for me because she's an INFJ just like me, and it's really about it's personal branding for introverts, which I'm super excited to read as soon as I get it next week. So
cool. Yeah, that sounds like a great one. Awesome. How about you, Julie?
It's funny. My favorite podcast. So I do listen to podcasts, and I have several that I listen to. They're not business related, except for this podcast.
That's okay.
I will say. So, excluding this podcast, I am a little obsessed with Armchair Expert. I don't know if you're familiar with that, the Dax Shepard podcast.
That's a good one.
Particularly his Experts on Expert. He always has fascinating guests that are just, I always learn something, and it's just always been in just a really fun way. And so that one I'm kind of obsessed with. And then when I went true escapism, because, I just, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend is hilarious. I was laughing just the other day listening to it as I was driving home, dropping off my son. I'm like, thankfully I didn't drive off the road because it was so fun.
That's great. We all need some good laughs, so I love it. All right, Julie, what's one place in the U.S. you've never been to but are dying to go?
The Pacific Northwest. I have never been to the Pacific Northwest. And
that's awesome.
I've heard amazing things. My cousin just got back from Portland and loved it. I know I've heard good things about Seattle. I've certainly seen enough. I watch enough HGTV to see all the different houseboats and places and things there. And I'm like, I need to get up there. So that's a big one.
Nice. Ben, how about you?
So I just knocked Alaska off my list twice this year. So the next one now is Hawaii. I haven't gone to Hawaii yet. Would love to go. Yeah.
Both of those are on my bucket list for sure. I love that.
Been in Hawaii. That one, if you guys haven't been, it really is paradise.
Oh, I want to go. Yeah.
Next level.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. All right, Ben, finish this sentence. When you see me looking at my phone, it probably means that I'm
either looking at news feeds for the latest and what's going on related to communications, transportation, tourism, whatever, or I'm chatting with my wife.
That sounds about right. Good. I love it. Julie, how about you?
Checking my text. I have I have 2 text threads that are way too chatty. Or playing Scrabble. I
love it.
That's my little escape. So
that's great. Awesome. Well, Julie, Ben, thank you again. This has been so much fun, and I just learned so much. So I really appreciate you joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks, Colleen. I appreciate it.
That's a wrap for today's episode. The Association Insights Podcast, previously known as the Association 100 Podcast, is a production of Onward and Upward Marketing and Communications, where our mission is to make associations and nonprofits the go-to source in their industries through earned media and thought leadership. This podcast is an extension of our newsletter, a bi-monthly collection of best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies delivered straight to your inbox. Have you undertaken a big change at your association? Or do you have some words of wisdom from the trenches of association life? We want to hear from you, and so do our listeners. Drop us a note at info@onwardupward.com. That's info@onwrdupwrd.com. Be sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and share with your friends and colleagues. We're available anywhere podcasts are found. Come back next week for more association insights and inspiration. Thanks for tuning in.